drop by precious drop. A new season begins on Wawasee. In the grand scheme of things, lakes are a relatively short-term gift of creation. All lakes actually begin their dying process on the day of their birth. The more beautiful and giving the lake, the more her allure to creation's dominant and often most destructive species, man. Our earliest records of man's enjoyment of Lake Wawasee suggest an encampment on the bank now called Cedar Point. From that vantage, Native Americans overlooked a body of water some 7 to 8 feet deeper than today, surrounded by untold acres of marsh and wetlands. They called it Turkey Lake. And they brought the first polluting form of transportation as they rode their ponies across the shallow reaches of the lake. The earliest residents found the lake teeming with fish, her shores fertile and abounding with shade and timber, and her sparkling waters a source of awesome beauty and refreshing recreation.
I have a picture that's about 1885, and where the Catholic retreat is on the south side of the lake. It shows corn growing right to the edge there. Now, there's a large bank and they had a fence, but gee, to look at that picture and look at it now, that's something else.
To me, the lake is mainly strong because it represents the family. And you represent family ties, and people come down here and they share family memories. And those will never go away. And that's what brings each generation back.
I wouldn't trade it for anything. If I had to do over again, I would never want it to be different. It's great. It's wonderful. Just love it. And so does the family.
There were 3 big launches, Sergeant's Falcon and the Robert E. Lee and the Deluxe. And they were slow boats that took a very leisurely ride around the lake. Then there were probably 4 or 5 Chris-Craft type boats. There was the Zip and the Wasp and the Blue Streak and the Flash No. 2. And most of them operated at night out of Waco and the Spink Hotel and South Shore, and they were a little more expensive and a shorter ride. As a matter of fact, I drove a couple of them, and the better business was the shorter the ride.
When sailing is in your blood, the change of seasons is but the wind's invitation to etch the surface with a wake of splintered water. The skater's blade glides to a quiet stop, and the rooster tail of a slalom ski settles inevitably into a smooth and quiet lake surface, reminding us that excitement on the water is not the exclusive providence of expensive toys. What greater bonding time or place than here, anchored quietly in the surrounds of nature's cattail gallery, where catching is not really so important. Or what greater thrill than that first bluegill rewarding the first-time angler's not-so-patient approach? Maybe the styles have changed, but swimming, whether for pure relaxation or for wholesome aerobic training, is an ageless activity on Wawasee.
Well, in younger years, I remember our neighbors next to my grandparents. That's where my long time started in the water. Is you'd go down about 11 o'clock, and this is when I'm probably 8, 9 years old, and play in the water with the neighbor kids until lunch. You'd have lunch, and you'd be there till 4 or 5 o'clock, and by the time you'd come home, your hands were all wrinkled up. You know, you'd never get a kid to take a bath that long, but we were in the water all day and every day. That was a lot of fun. I remember that a lot.
Add water to almost any family occasion, and it's transformed into a ritual. Birthdays, weddings, and graduations all take on special memories when played out by the waters of Lake Wawasee.
When Russell was 2, I remember asking him, you know, what do you want to do for your birthday? And his birthday was in March. And he said, I go yake. And he could only spell it with a Y. You know, Y-A-K-E is the way I pronounced it. I go yake. And, you know, here at age of 2, you know, he was already beginning, you know, to want to be here and to want to be a part of the kinds of things that could happen here.
But sometimes, all that one needs to reap the bounty of these living waters is to sit quietly in their mystic presence and reminisce.
And we have a cutest memory of Mr. and Mrs. Perrin that had a place close to the Episcopal Church there on the south side. And he'd take her for a row in the boat, and she would have a parasol. You can visualize that yet, you know what I mean, of 2 lone people in a red rowboat.
I can remember growing up that between all of the families, we would have 16 or 17 people sleeping in our cottage on the weekends. And as I look back and realize our mothers were absolute saints to put up with all that baloney.
We used to have dancing most every night, and of course Saturdays and Sundays, Sunday afternoon and Sunday evening, and we had a ball. They had name bands such as Glenn Miller and Ace Brigode and a number of good bands. And we all met there, all the young folks. We never took a date. We always, the girls went one way and we went the other, and then we met in the dance hall. It was cheaper that way at that time.
Well, I grew up here on the lake and met my friends when they were 7, 8, 9 years old. And we spent all of our summers here, and we usually parted in the winter, and everybody went different directions. And it was awful exciting waiting for next summer to see how, especially the girls, had developed through the winter. But that was a lot of fun, waiting for the next season to get together with your old pals and buddies and have a good time at the lake.
During the Depression, 30, 31, 32, and my father did some work for an advertising agency in Indianapolis which had the Spink Wawasee account, and Spink couldn't pay their bills, and so they gave my father barter, 2 weeks stay at the Spink with his family, and so we came up and stayed at the Spink, and that was my introduction to Lake Wawasee.
I think we have one of the finest schools around, and So it isn't always just the lake that brings people. It's a quality of life that apparently is here and has been perpetuated.
Really, we came here for the nature, and the day would literally be spent, part of it was our age, of course. We were 7, 8, 9, 10 to 12, at the beach. We'd just go down and we'd start swimming. You'd hunt turtles, you'd try to find bullfrogs. We weren't real fishermen, but there was just always something to do. My aunt designed Elf Harbor, it was called, which we spent hours building these sand castles and so on.
The lake has been very much a part of my life. It's a large part of my sister's life. I grew up here. I feel as if my basic childhood was Wawasee.
It's a way of life that I chose. Some of the people you've interviewed, it was because, family brought them here, or they were children of people who had been here. I came because I loved my husband, and I came because I loved the lake.
You can remember when they took and had a fellow went up through there with a little horse and buckboard wagon and sold vegetables and milk and so forth, you know what I mean? And now you're not even safe walking across the road on account of the fast joggers.
This old mock putt-putt rental boat, which is a 1908 Michigan steel boat, I'm trying to restore it, and I don't know if I'll ever get it finished or not. But at any rate, what I'm working on here now is the bow, which shows you how it gets all beat up, because in the days we rented these boats, why, there were no reverse. You just came into your pier, you shut it off and glided in, and if you were coming in too fast, you had to fend off and grab the posts and keep from breaking your arm or leg, but if you hit something, it'd break up the bow. So most of them got banged up like that, and they had a special sound to them because the water pump wastewater came out through the exhaust manifold and made that putt-putt sound. And I hope someday to putt-putt around the lake again.
Chances are that one of the biggest changes that ever occurred on the lake is when they come out with the electric starter on outboard motors, because then women and children could run them.
Definitely been a lot of changes in that length of time. Like when I first here 45 years ago, there was a lot of reed beds and things like that. That might be a small thing, but it was significant in the fact that they have completely disappeared now.
I used to swim amongst the reeds and the weeds, and my friends would come down from Chicago and say, "How can you swim here?" But to me, a swimming pool in the Chicago area, the water didn't taste good.
How the lake stays the quality that it does is amazing. You can prolong the life of a lake by artificial means, by maintaining the swamplands, creating artificial wetlands, things of that nature, not allowing the agricultural chemicals to run into the lake.
I think it's on its way now to being saved, the lake, for many, many generations to come.
The waters of Wawasee are noted for their clarity and safety. Sponsored jointly by the Wawasee Property Owners Association and the Syracuse Lake Association, periodic sampling is conducted to monitor the water quality of our lakes. Wawasee consistently ranks among the cleanest and safest lakes in Indiana.
Lake Wawasee is very unique because it's on the southern boundary of the Lake Michigan watershed, which means it has a very small area that really drains into Lake Wawasee for the size of the lake. Also, there's less chance for nutrients and sediments from the surrounding watershed to wash into that lake. Plus, they're buffered by the presence of other small lakes on those inflow streams that filter out a lot of the sediments and nutrients that flow into many of our Indiana lakes. We have to realize that the lake just doesn't stop at the shoreline. It's the entire activities of man within the entire watershed. And those activities have been not impacted by major industry or other kinds of dramatic pollution problems that face some of our other lakes in Indiana. The unique setting of Lake Wawasee within the geological watershed has helped preserve its unique high quality that it has at the present time. The wetlands also, I think, play an important role in helping buffer man's impact upon the water resource. These wetlands contribute to the biological diversity of the lake, but also help filter it from the impact of the nutrients and sediments that are normally causing degradation in some of our other lakes in Indiana. There's only a few lakes in Indiana that actually made that improvement.
The Indiana DNR, in addition to enforcing laws protecting fish and wildlife, has primary responsibility for preventing developmental and environmental abuse to Wawasee. The team most in evidence to the recreational user of Wawasee waters is a joint effort of the Kosciuszko County Sheriff's Department and volunteer patrols, recruited from the ranks of local residents.
I started 26 years ago, and we've been very fortunate in that today we have 5 boats that are all highly marked, clearly visible. The primary philosophy of our operation is to promote safety on the lake. We have had and we will continue to make arrests for driving under the influence in a boat. And in Indiana, if you're caught driving under the influence, you can actually lose your boating privileges for a period of 2 years, in addition to a jail sentence and a fine.
From glacial beginnings, Lake Wawasee has welcomed people of all ages to her sparkling waters. She has fed and refreshed us. Her ecosystem has adapted remarkably well to our use and abuse. We've woven a rich tapestry of history, names, and relationships that span decades. We've set up official agencies to protect against our most aggressive abuses. Our most significant effort affecting water quality and the life expectancy of the lake is the construction of sewers serving some 1,400 of our properties along several miles of Wawasee shoreline. We formed a Wawasee Property Owners Association to hear and communicate the concerns of Wawasee's residents and resorters. Life is good beside these mystic waters. So long as cattails stand sentry over a marshy view, man will seek to claim that vista for his personal use. Where the law is not clear, economics may be the golden rule of future development. Consider your commitment to the protection, not merely of the values you enjoy on Wawasee, but to the grace which this living body sheds upon all who are yet to arrive.
There's that cottage that's handed down from generation to generation, but there are a lot of people who find Wawasee for so many interesting reasons, and they all love it, and they continue to come back.
Drop by precious drop, generation to caring generation.
The beauty of the area is just fantastic. Our family is all gone, but they all come back, and I'm sure they always will.
As our Native American mentors remind us, we have not inherited Wawasee from our ancestors so much as we have borrowed it from our grandchildren.
The calm, the peaceful, you just sit out there on the front and it's just like heaven. It really is. I wouldn't trade that for nothing.